Good morning, everybody. It is Merritt with Master of One Coaching, and it is time for Leadership Live Friday. Once again, coming to you live every Friday on Facebook and YouTube, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and also available on replays. And this morning, it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome Filomena Fanelli from Impact PR. Good morning, Filomena. How are you today?
I'm great, Merritt. Thanks for having me here and for all those beautiful photos that led into the intro. I couldn't stop smiling looking at them.
Well, I cannot take credit for any of those. Those are from Jeff Tisman, who is a brilliant photographer, and he does all of my photo work, and I'm just super, super blessed. So shout out to Jeff. He's amazing what he does.
Well done, Jeff.
So we are coming live on YouTube and on Facebook, on my personal profile and on Master of One Coaching page. And I want to let you all know that whoever's watching and given a moment, whether you're watching live or on the replay, go ahead and put comments and questions in the post there, and we can bring them up. If you're live, we'll bring them up on the screen and we can answer them live or address them live. If not, we'll come back on the replay and check them out later. And so, Filomena.
Yes, that's me.
Welcome. So what we always do first is ask our guests to tell us a little bit about your story. So I'm going to ask you to do that. Just jump right in. Tell us about who you are and how you got to be in the position you are in and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so nearly 23 years ago, Merritt, I started my career in public relations as an administrative assistant. Didn't know where it would go. Was in fact told that I'd be someone's assistant and I didn't have the skills that it took on paper. But before long, 10 months later, I was promoted. And 8 years after that, I worked my way up to vice president of Rubenstein Associates, a firm that did public relations exclusively in New York City. Great ride. But I eventually stepped off of that path when I had a family. And I thought, oh, I guess I can't do public relations anymore as a career because there were no agencies near me doing what I was doing at that time. So I took a bit of a leap. I didn't know what my next move was going to be. And before long, I wound up freelancing until 7.5 years ago, I decided to create the opportunity I didn't see around me, the kind of agency that did the kind of work that I was passionate about from the place that I loved so much, the Hudson Valley. And that's when I started Impact PR and Communications. And it has been a wild ride since. We're a certified women's business enterprise. We've grown, and not only did I create the job I always wanted that I didn't see out in the world, and the kind of company that did the work the way I believed it should be done, I was able to bring other people along for the ride and hire a team of like-minded professionals.
Well, we hear this story so often in kind of different forms, right? Like I was doing one thing and I just felt like it wasn't right, and I really wanted it, and so I decided to do my own thing. And I'm curious about. Which is that's the magic of entrepreneurship, right? Like we can create whatever we want. I'm curious about if there was a pivotal moment or maybe a series of pivotal moments where you went, gosh, like this doesn't feel right to me, or this is what I really want to do. Like what, did you have moments of clarity that kind of dropped in for you? And if you could tell us about one or two of those, that'd be great.
Yeah, there were a few key moments along the way that led me to the realization that I had to create Impact PR and Communications, that it was something that was happening right before my eyes, whether I wanted to or not. And those began with getting inquiries from people around me who had businesses, other business owners, and they were asking for my help. And I wanted to step in and help them, whether I was being paid or not at that point. And when they showed me what they were doing or the advice that they were getting, I was like, oh gosh, they're not getting what they need. And I stepped in to help repeatedly. And then those people wanted to hire me. And not-for-profits in the community were, I was volunteering and helping them doing what I had done for so many years. And I realized there is not only a market need, but there's a real opportunity here to do this in a way that spoke to my values, that spoke to my belief system, and that would genuinely help these companies who weren't getting what they needed. They weren't getting the proper guidance. And I had seen other people running businesses, but a lot of them were order taking, just saying yes to everything, delivering something without concern about if it was the right thing or the ethical thing. And so that really spoke to me and let me know that there was a need that I could fill and that I could do things on my terms and create the kind of company I always wish existed, the kind of company where the team came first, where the clients were treated with respect and to be admired. And that was something I wanted for myself and ultimately, eventually others.
Well, before we came online, we were talking about what impact PR means to you, and so how those values have driven your path and your choice of partnerships and things of that nature. And so, tell me a little bit more about like the name of impact PR and what is, because we all talk, I mean, many people talk about impact, but what is the impact that you are looking to create with your agency?
Yeah, so Merritt, the name was not an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't something I chose because it was cute or trendy. Certainly this could have been Fanelli PR, but I didn't want it to be about that. I wanted the businesses and the brands we aligned with to be ones that did something good for their community or for their customers, or elevated their industry in some important way that was positive, that bettered the world around them. And every single client we worked with since that has stayed with us are brands or companies that do that, and they look extremely different on paper. You might see us working with an arts organization and a senior living facility and a real estate developer and an attorney or a bank. But I will tell you, all of those brands have way more in common than it looks like from the outside, and it begins with the values inside. And that was something as an owner I wanted to define very early on. I remember in my earliest days sitting around with our team over some lovely coffees and having an immersive session where we discussed what were the things that were non-negotiable to us. What were the things that we would hire to or say no to because they just didn't align with our values? And can we make those our guide? Can we make them the North Star? And we have, and it's been fantastic ever since because of that.
It's so important what you are saying because it's so often in my line of work, I get to people call me in or my colleagues in because something has gone terribly wrong, right? And they have to fix it. They have to put out the fire. There's tons of dysfunction and they don't really understand why, right? They're just showing up and doing their job. And what you have done, what you do with your colleagues in your business and your clients is say, here is where we are starting from, right? This is, and you built that from the very, very beginning.
So much so, Merritt, that we discuss it before they become a client. It's something that is, nobody works with us without receiving a copy of something we call Set the Stage Before We Engage. And I created it because I wanted to get to those critical conversations sooner. I wanted to lay all of our cards out on the table so that someone could either opt in and say, yes, I identify with and respect this, and this is me, or they can say, oh, I don't know if this is a great fit. And that's okay because it's going to lead them to where they need to go. This is a good thing, even if it's not ultimately with us. And it's going to let us work with people that we're going to feel very aligned with.
I think that's really hard, especially for new business owners, right? New people who are just starting out, because there is often, along with a sense of calling, and which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, but a lot of a sense of calling and wanting to move forward with a certain dream or vision. There's also this terrible fear, right? That we often contend with, and it's fear of not being able to make sense in the market, not being able to meet the right people, not being able to make ends meet. So how do you reconcile that? Like how do you have a lot of courage to do what you did. I mean, I'd like to be able to say, I'm not going to move forward unless it meets, until and unless it meets this criteria, right?
So Merritt, I will first of all humbly admit that I didn't know that immediately, or even if I thought I was on that path, it did take some time to figure it out, and we're still figuring it out. It's an ever evolving process. Because when you do first start a business, I think the tendency is naturally, like you spoke to say yes to everything, to be like, everyone's a great customer. I want this person as a client. I want this person as a customer. I'll sell to anyone who wants to buy. But I think very quickly when one does that, you can discover that not all the money is green. That
Yeah.
It's not. And it's funny to say as a business owner, obviously there is no business if we don't make a profit. And I believe it's absolutely something that can happen to manage kind of social responsibility and values with being profitable and financially healthy. And in fact, when you do that, when you select the right things, you do tend to grow because you're confident in your mission. Confidence attracts people like the world's biggest magnet.
Absolutely.
Especially the right people, including team members or employees, some people call them. But I think
whoever those people are,
they select themselves and they say, this is the kind of company I want to work for, even when you don't have an ad out, even in what we're the midst of this great resignation. And I will tell you, the best hires I have are people who have opted in and told me they wanted to work for me before there was a position. And I knew I wanted to work with them. And then when that opportunity comes, it's often a very quick process to fill that open spot. Similar to clients, when we're selective and we say we can slot you in here, we want to give you our undivided attention, those really great clients are going to want to work with us because they know we're going to give them our all.
Well, this is a great kind of connection to this other idea that we talked about in terms of calling. And like, so what helps you have the faith and trust in that? I mean, obviously you went through the process, as you said, that, most people do, which is kind of weeding it out and like, oh, I do want to do this. I don't want to do that. And also it sounds like there was something that was within you of saying, this is where I am headed this way. So I'm going to do that in the most thoughtful, mindful way I can. What is it within you that gave you that faith in yourself, or faith in the process and the path that you were embarking upon? Did you have someone who inspired you, or is it just what is that about? Where does that come from?
So growing up, my father, who's no longer with me, was a business owner. And I got to see that from an early age. And I remember hanging out at his business. He had a transportation company. And I thought, I'm never, ever going to do this. This is really hard work. When things are good, they're very good. And when they're bad, they're very bad. And the world's on your shoulders. And I thought, who would want that kind of responsibility? Like, surely it's so much easier for me to work for someone else and not to have that on my shoulders. But over time, I did feel like it was a calling and something that selected me. I have another person who's a friend of mine who's in the leadership world, and he often says, you're not a leader unless you have followers. And I feel like people were following me, looking to me to help them. And because it was of me already, I wanted to give, I wanted to help, and I wanted to create, and it was undeniable. The solution was right there in front of me, and the company grew out of that, not the other way around. It wasn't as if I woke up and I was like, oh, I want to start my own PR agency and build some sort of empire. It organically happened because I was doing the thing that I loved and creating something I really believed in, and therefore it kept growing and growing before my eyes, and I had to answer the call. I still feel that way. When I get up in the morning, I feel like I'm doing what I've been chosen to do and what I need to do and what I love to do. And I hope everybody feels that way. I think it's a really powerful thing to tune into your gut and to tune out the rest of the world and not worry about what is and what's been done and what others are doing, but to stand in your authenticity and to listen to that feeling when you see a better way or you see a new way, to take that chance. What's the worst thing that can happen? Failure? I've had failures. Everybody's had failures.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And right. Failure is not something to be afraid of.
Some glorious ones. I've had some glorious ones over the years.
It's really not something to be afraid of, right? Something to embrace because you learn more quickly. Like in the entrepreneurial space, we talk a lot about failing fast, right? Just get to the failure, like do it again and again and again and again, so that you can learn what you need to learn and get yourself out of the way. Like if you get more comfortable with failure, then you're not worried about it anymore, right? You expect it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I want to just bring out a couple of comments here. Lori Ostrowski, who is a mutual friend of ours, and she says, good morning to Powerhouse ladies. Hugs to you both. Hugs back to you, Lori. Lori was one of my very first guests on Leadership Live. So thank you for tuning in, Lori. It's great to see you.
Lori. Lori and I actually came up on Facebook this morning, have been Facebook friends for 5 years.
Oh, nice.
Today's our Facebook anniversary. Happy anniversary, Lori.
So sweet. And then RJ, who was our guest last week, says, love your recognition and discretion and reputation building. Filomena, as a successful businesswoman, I would love to know who your strongest woman role models are. Now, this is a great question, not only because RJ is awesome and smart about this question, and also because RJ is doing his PhD work right now, how to help and serve young mothers who are college students and kind of starting out in their world of work and world of academia. So there's a specific mission behind this question too, I think.
Oh, very cool. RJ, I love the work that you're doing, and I love the question, including the way you worded it. So I want to thank you for just even the terms that you put around that, because I think they're so meaningful. And when people talk about women in business, sometimes they use cute terms to describe what we're doing that I think are meant to be empowering and uplifting. And I generally don't identify with those. So thank you for speaking the way I really identify with. I am very fortunate to have had both female and male role models, but there were very specific females who inspired me along the way. And in fact, were part of my story in a big way. The first job that I had in PR in New York City that I told you about, the one where I was an administrative assistant, and someone told me because they didn't see on my resume, the right skills or the right schooling, that I was not destined for what it is I wound up doing. There were 2 women I worked with in the office, one of whom I'm still a very good friend with today, who saw me doing the work for 2 of my bosses. That was this executive level work, and they saw me putting in the time and studying up and producing things without recognition or pay or even looking for any of that. And they went to our boss and told him, do you know who's been doing this while so-and-so is at the golf course? Filomena, she's been doing the whole thing. And if they hadn't spoken up, I might not have gotten my first promotion 10 months in that then set me up for a career. So kudos to Kathleen and Catherine for being those role models to me and for inspiring me to speak up when I see someone doing the thing or someone who's living out their potential, not just noticing it and keeping it to myself, but shouting it from the rooftops and being a champion for them to elevate their careers. I cannot go without acknowledging a woman by the name of Jennifer, who, when I stepped off the New York City path and I was in the Hudson Valley, called me and offered me a freelancing opportunity working around my children's schedules from my house. This is like when it wasn't COVID times and trendy. And that job position gave me confidence that I could do what I wanted from where I wanted. So I owe a much debt of gratitude to Jennifer. If she's out there watching or hears this, I really appreciate her for creating opportunities and for showing me a way forward. But also when I started my own business, and she had her own business at the time that I was freelancing for, she said to me, how can I help you? Let me share with you what I learned so far, and let me be your first client. Like, you can continue to work for me while you grow your book of business. And so, Jennifer, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are a powerhouse woman.
That's incredible. I hear these kinds of stories over and over again when we're talking to leaders who are successful and generous, right? It is about people who are generous to them, and they understand the benefits of that early, right? Rather than entering into a competitive mindset where I have to, like, and most of the world resonates in this level of competition, dog eat dog, if you will, and right, and I'm gonna win at your expense, right? The most generous and most dynamic and most successful leaders that I can come into contact with on a regular basis, and the ones that inspire me too, and inspire the ones that I talk to, are the ones who are looking out for the next awesome contributor, right? Who can I collaborate with? Who can I lift up so that we can do even better work together?
Well, the abundance mindset's so important because when you believe there's enough out there for all of us, you stand confident in who you are, and you're not afraid to give to others and to watch them succeed, because there really is enough to go around. It's not like the pie can only be cut into 8 pieces. And if you don't get to the pie first, you're going to lose out. Like, that's not the way the world works.
Well, it's a fundamental shift in how we see the world and how we see ourselves in it. And there's a book right now, which I'm going to forget the name of, and the author is going to leaving my mind at the moment because Friday, but I'll put it back in the comments when I remember it. And it talks about this abundance mindset. There's a lot of writing about this in the last 20 years or so, and actually even before that. Look at like the work of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich and things like that. But this idea of poverty mindset versus abundance mindset, right, or prosperity mindset, it is in fact a mindset. Not to say that there isn't poverty, right? But that is a fact that there is poverty, right? That people are impoverished and they are suffering and they need help. But it doesn't mean that there's only enough for some certain amount of rich people and then the rest everybody gets nothing. It is a matter of how we allocate resources and become conduits for the resources to lift others up.
Yeah, when you're fortunate enough to have had some measure of success or to figure out something that works and you can use that to help someone else avoid those same pains that you had as you figured it out along the way, that's a beautiful thing. My favorite people to talk to are people who are just starting out, who I can share resources or ideas or tips with. And set them off on a right course. I love one of my good friends, Michelle, is starting a business in Wappinger. She's off and on her way, River Valley Arts Center. And I'm so proud of her. And I've loved watching her journey and helping in any way I can.
Yeah, it's such an important point to remember that we are all in this together. Yes, but we have, as we work together in our various capacities as leaders, as business owners, as members of the community, like we have an incredible opportunity always to elevate and evolve. Always. It's always available to us at any moment, right? So, and we do that in whatever way we are called to do that, which is what you're doing too. And you're not only doing it for yourself and your team members and your community, but you're also doing it for your clients, which is such a beautiful synergy.
Well, we're all works in progress. And that's why even when you're in a business, like a lot of businesses have professional development as part of what they do. And like, we've been fortunate to have you come in and talk to our group about being intentional at work. And that was a great session that you led for us. But I think taking the time in this space to think about your why, about why you're showing up, about why you do what you do out of all the things you could be doing with your day, or calling it work in your life, like why this, and how can I do this on a higher level? How can I do this in a way that's true to me? And how can I lift other people up? These are all good questions to ask.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we've come to the time in the program where I ask the magical question of your golden nugget, which is if you have, and you've imparted so much wisdom and so much energy today, just in the few minutes we've been talking. So thank you so much for showing up and with just generosity and love and your luminous spirit. I really, really appreciate it. And if you can give us, wrap it up in a little bow and drop us as a little gift, like the one thing that you would like our audience to walk away with today from this conversation, what would that be?
Yeah, if there was one thing I could share with anybody who's tuned in today, is that it's the best leadership begins with self-leadership. So one thing I focus on constantly is growing my awareness of who I am, how I'm showing up, how I can improve myself, how I can work on my own shortcomings and flaws so that I have more to give to my team, to my family, to our clients, to our community. And without doing that constant self-assessment and that work within, I can't be the best me for everyone else, and neither can you. So I just urge everyone to take that time to sit with yourself and to be really honest about yourself and do that work. Continue to read, continue to listen to others, continue to watch people like Merritt who are talking about leadership, because that's how we grow. That's how we become better.
Oh, this is like music to my ears, my friend. I feel like you just wrote my PR page right there. And you work on that later. I might have to like take that recording and write it down. No, that's really, really great. Where did you learn that? Can I ask that?
Where did I learn that I needed to work on myself? Yeah. By getting it wrong first. Quite frankly, I learned about that by making mistakes where when I sit back and examine them, they weren't about the other person and their shortcomings. They were about how I processed and reacted.
Always.
Or about the boundaries I did not put up initially. Or about the examination that I didn't do and the tough, candid conversations that needed to happen along the way that I put off because they were uncomfortable.
Whoo, yes.
Deep, and without naming names or throwing myself under the bus, it was those moments of basically making a buffoon out of myself and then sitting back and looking and wanting to play the blame game, but realizing there was only one person to look at, and that was me.
Right. Our discomfort is our own to own, right? It is that it is not anybody else's. No one throws. They might be stimulus, right? Stimulate or be a trigger or push a button or whatever it is, but it's our button. And we all have different versions of those buttons. And so to be able to be aware of where our soft points are and to be able to shore ourselves up and gain new skills, develop new skills to handle those differently so that we can move forward in a more in a stronger way, in a more compassionate way for ourselves. The self-compassion piece is so important too. We're so tend to be not very good at that as a culture.
Well, it gives other people also too permission to make mistakes. When the person who's in charge, and I've worked for many, many managers over the years, lots of strong managers, very few leaders. The strong leader is the one that gives people on their teams or the people that they're looking to them for that direction or to be brave or to be courageous, when they give them the permission to be flawed and human and to make mistakes. And it starts with embracing that for yourself and being like, I need a mental health day, or wow, I just, ranted and raved and I wasn't being positive and I'm sorry if I just went off there. I was having a moment. I need to step back for myself. But I think that's so important, is just giving that grace to others because you've given it to yourself. And when I talk about self-leadership, I also talk about not just the negatives, but also realizing where your strengths are, building upon that, like learning which parts you are naturally good at or where you shine, and then seeing that in others and seeing where their differences lie and how they can fill in those gaps that you might have.
Yeah. Well, which is what a team is for, right? I mean, that's why we have teams. If we could do it all ourselves, then we wouldn't need anybody else to do it with us. Yeah.
Well, even solo entrepreneurs need a team. They might not be employees on a W-2 or a team of subcontractors, but they might be coaches or consultants or sounding boards in a leadership group that they belong to. Or I belong to a business book club where we discuss different books every month. Right now we're reading Your Next 5 Moves, which is a fantastic book. But yeah, I think having those people to bounce ideas off of and to call us out when we're not hitting the mark, or tell us when we've got something good going and be able to share it with them, that's where the true learning happens and where leadership gets elevated.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. We actually touched just a little bit on this idea. I'm not being positive. I need to reframe. And there's a whole kind of worms around toxic positivity and what that means. So it actually just gave me an idea to have another theme for something. But to be really clear about, because I think what you just said is really, really important. It's not about positivity at all costs. Or negating the negative or avoiding confrontation or any of that. It's about understanding that there's a greater goal to elevate, right? And if I'm not being positive in that moment, it's like, okay, something's going on I need to address, and so I can turn my energy around and move forward and grow more. It's really about being honest about what's happening, because a lot of toxic positivity, I think, is about ignoring the bad feelings, right? And that's so. But
I think the pandemic showed us a time where toxic positivity could be more hurtful than helpful. I think sometimes people needed to say that they were struggling or uncomfortable with all the uncertainty or nervous about the future. And I think you can't shut those conversations down. We need to let them happen. People need to have a safe space, and in safety, people do feel like they're part of something that can believe in. Like, people need belonging, they need safety, they need security, and we don't always feel that, and that's okay.
Yeah. So smart. Thank you so much. My goodness, for being
Thank
here. And
you.
I wanted to end today with if you are open to people connecting with you, how do they do that? If you have anything you want to talk about in terms of an event or something that's coming up, is there anything you want to mention, or do you just want to say, come meet us on our website, or how would you like people to reach out to you?
Well, so if people are following us in all of the places, they'll find out about all the good events, all the excitement, all the places they'll see us. So I would just urge them to go connect over there. We are at PR with Impact on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And not only are you welcome to connect with Impact PR and Communications, you're also welcome to connect with me as a person. I'm real.
I'm real girl.
I'm real. I'm a real live girl. You can come connect with me in all of those places too, under my name, Filomena Fanelli. And I share a lot about business and tips on that front, but I also spend just as much time talking about things I'm passionate about in the community. Causes that I'm involved with, things that I believe deserve people's support and that they should be aware of, or resources. So if you like that sort of thing, then I'm your jam.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for being here, Filomena. You're such a delight and a wealth of knowledge and spirit, and an incredible contributor to our community. And just and also, I did mention in your bio, we didn't talk about it here, that you have won several awards for your campaigns and for your leadership. You were acknowledged as an ATHENA award winner, and a 40 under 40. And so you're all kinds of awesome.
Thanks. Right back at you. I'm all kinds of awesome because I hang out with a lot of awesome people. So
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? You are who we hang out with, for sure.
Yep. Maybe you become the sum of the people you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you'll just hang out just for a moment after I sign off here, but thank you so much again for being here, and I hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you. I'd be happy to.
Awesome. All right, everybody, that's it for this week's Leadership Live Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And we are here again every Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And you can also catch us on the replay. We're on Facebook, 2 pages, and on YouTube, Master of One Coaching. And if you are interested in finding out more about yourself and how you can show up as your best self, as an evolved, enlightened, and elevating leader, I am running a free 5-day challenge starting this coming Monday, September 13th. I'll put the link in below for registration, but if you are interested in that, it's totally free. 5 days of awesome content, no fluff. This is real leadership work that I do with my clients every single day. Go to masterofonecoaching.com and register there, and we will see you there on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.